Gators, this has been a pretty actually busy week compared to the past 2 months since signing day really has ended. We made some GM hires, something that we had been waiting on for 2 months, I guess. Yeah, while time was slow. We hired Nick Polk to run us as like an NFL style front office. Spent 18 years with the Atlanta Falcons, running their salary cap and signings and stuff. So I think from an experience perspective, that is a pretty good hire. I mean, we don't really know how that's going to end up working out in college because a bunch of differences from just having, okay, you can only spend X amount of money and that's official. And you're probably going to be somewhere like within like 20, I mean, depending on what your team's goals are, if you're trying to tank or if you're trying to win now, you're going to be spending for sure at that amount. And there's some workarounds. But with college, it's definitely a lot different. You're working with NIL deals. You're working with other companies to give you those deals. You're working with these players to figure out how much they want. You're going to try to figure out how much you can give per position. And you're not just working with players that you're trying to recruit. You're also trying to keep your current players with you. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how this works out.
Yeah, it's a complex new space within the sport that everyone's sort of just kind of trying to figure out at the same time. Mm-hmm. And no one even really knows what this is all going to look like by the time we actually kick off a ball in 2025, because the House settlement that's on the table right now, the court settlement that would essentially, institute rev share, allow institutions to pay players directly. They're expecting some sort of resolution there in April. Like, the prevailing consensus has been that it's gonna go through, but now I'm hearing like a lot of stakeholders don't think it's going to go through. Really? So there's a lot of that. Yeah, that's kind of what I've been hearing the last like week or so. I've heard some people say that. So I don't know what's going to happen, but none of them do either. They can kind of just take educated guesses. So this is all, I think, what this role looks like is to be determined. But I think the important thing that I've seen, like kind of in the way it's been reported on and publicly discussed by the school, is it seems like this is a contract heavy position. Like, yes, this job is about contracts. It's about managing money, salary caps, writing deals. Like, this is not a GM, like an NFL GM, like going to be making talent acquisition move. Like, if you were hoping they were going to bring in a GM who would like go get, top tier transfers when Billy's not willing to go after those guys, like that's not what Nick Polk is. No. From everything that I can
That's
tell.
A different hire.
Yeah. Well, it's a different hire that I'm not sure they've made or are going to make.
I think they have. At the same time we hired Nick Polk, we also hired Ben Elsner,
I've heard that's also a contracts thing too. We can get into that, but I've heard that's also
he's listed as football strategy, using analytics and AI to help determine how this roster outlook will be. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's a lot of just technology words that could mean anything. It could mean they're just using it to determine money. I mean, it's why hire two people. Could be they're using it to determine, okay, we need a player who's this good for this price, which, could end up helping us in the transfer portal. Maybe they realize, oh, well, this edge, Kofi Asare, like, for what we're looking at on a grading scale wise, he's like I don't know, like, I don't know how this works. Like, exactly, like, it could be anything. That's how it could go.
Mm-hmm. And that's not even talking about what happens to Jacob LaFrance, who's already on staff, has been on staff since Billy came over from Louisiana, has the title general manager right now. Nick Polk's title is associate AD and football general manager. So you can tell me what the difference between that and general manager is. So I think there's a lot about this front office, I guess if you want to call it that, the front office structure that is still a question mark. But I think this is sort of like just a bare minimum move. Like, you just got to do this. This is what teams are doing now. And this sport is becoming complex to a point that one guy who's also a head coach just literally can't do all this. So,
yeah, I don't know how to describe this. I mean, this is a hire we've wanted. I mean, we didn't have this position before, so I assume it's going to help us. but it's also like we're just assuming here. Maybe it does help us distribute money. Maybe he's going to help get more money from boosters. I mean, we talked about Solomon Thomas. It seemed like he was a straight up going to whatever school offered him more money between us and LSU. Maybe if we had Polk on staff, maybe we would have offered him the more money. Maybe they would have realized, oh, we do have this little bit that's not going anywhere else, or decided that instead of paying him, we paying Dice, so we find out better value at Thomas. I mean, again, it's a lot of Billy doing what he does a lot, where it's just he does a lot, but he also does nothing. It feels like he makes all these hires, but no one really knows what they do. So,
yeah, no, that's a fair point. Yeah, I mean, the way I look at this is like, to me, this isn't something that's going to give Florida like a competitive edge. I'm not saying like it doesn't mean it's a bad hire. Like I don't think it's a bad move. I think he seems qualified. This is something that Florida has to do just to stay competitive, because this is what all the top tier programs in college, and not even top tier. I mean, look at the structure that North Carolina is implementing. And they're not alone. Like just because it's not just a Belichick thing. Like this is the way the sport is moving, and you're not going to be competitive with the top tier of the sport unless you do something like this. So again, this isn't going to give Florida an edge because this is something that everyone's doing right now, but needed to be done nonetheless. So glad it's